My next guest is an actor, singer, model, screenwriter, and extreme sports enthusiast. You may have seen him in one of the multiple blockbuster films he's been in, like Hunger Games and Bad Boys for Life, or in the History Channel's #1 scripted series of all time, Vikings. Not only does he have his sights set on dominating the acting world, he has recently ignited his country music career with his new song, Let Me Be Your Whiskey, that quickly rose to over 1 million streams when it debuted. Welcome to the Living Instead podcast, my friend, Alexander Ludwig. What's up, Alexander?
Wow, what an introduction, Liv. That was amazing.
Where are you calling in from?
I am currently in Atlanta, Georgia, about to start a new project in quarantine at the moment. I just had another COVID test today, so fingers crossed for the results tomorrow.
How many did you get? Like during the process?
We're gonna have to do like 3 a week. It's crazy. I think that the most important thing to everybody is just that the crew and the cast and everybody around stay safe and that we keep social distancing and weather through this crazy storm that we've all had to endure. But I'm super grateful to just be working, honestly, to have a job right now. It's just such a blessing.
100%. Well, I want to dive right in. I want to start with your early years because you've been in the entertainment industry for how long?
Gosh, I mean, since I was about 9.
And you're how old now?
28.
So what was the first moment for you that you realized you loved entertaining?
When I grew up, I was always either writing music or filming my buddies and my siblings and making these little movies. And I just realized at a very early age that I loved to perform. And I loved how films or certain songs that I would listen to made me feel as a person and how it inspired me internally. And I wanted to be a part of giving that to other people. So I just quickly set my sights on that and kind of never looked back at a pretty early age. So I slowly worked my way up from all little commercials to movies of the week. And so it's just one of those things like anything. If you love it, you put your time into it and you weather the storms that come with it. You know, I had to deal with rejection at a very early age and learned how I could process that and not take it personally. And I have a long way to go, but I'm just so grateful to be sitting in the position I'm in at the moment.
9 years old, that's a really, really young age. Did you get your first gig at 9?
Yeah, I mean, I got so unbelievably lucky looking back now, and it probably set a pretty dangerous precedent for me. But the first commercial I ever went out for was a Harry Potter toy commercial, and I booked it. It was this worldwide commercial, and it was such a cool, validating experience for me as a kid. It also made it seem pretty easy. Like you could just do that and that's what was going to happen. And I realized pretty damn quickly after that that wasn't the case, that it was going to be something that I would have to put my heart and soul into and my sweat and tears into on a regular basis. But I loved it. When you love something the way that I love acting or music, it's that you're willing to go through things that most people wouldn't because it means that much to you. I had this mantra that I would say to myself at a pretty early age. I came up with it. It was, if I'm 80 years old and jobless, at least I'll be able to look back on my life and know I made my 12-year-old self proud when I went for it and I gave it everything I had and I never looked back because you only really get one life. And for me, it was that I wanted to at least go for it because you can easily fail at something you don't like. Why don't you try it at something you do?
100%.
Yeah.
Did your parents support you?
They were nervous at the start. My mom used to be an actress and she was a great actress, and she stopped because she wanted to have a family and settle down. And my dad is a self-made man. He did quite well for himself early on in his life. So I think that my mom was worried because just at such a young age, having that kind of success can really distort your perception of the world and perhaps of yourself. And my father was more worried because he knew what worked for him and he had to fight damn hard to get out of where he grew up. So being an actor and that whole concept to him was so foreign that he just thought that it was insane, or being a musician or anything. For him, it's you go to school, you work your ass off, and then you make moves. And for me, I couldn't help that I love different things, and that's not the life that I wanted. If anything, though, their nervousness for me getting involved in the industry wasn't because they didn't believe I could do it. I think, in fact, if anything, it encouraged me because they believed that I could do it. And they were just worried of the repercussions of having that kind of success early. So anything that encouraged me, the best thing that my parents instilled in me at an early age, though, was that I could do anything. So
Mhm.
they always told me, you can do anything. Anything you set your mind to, you can do it. You just got to work hard enough for it. And I think I carry that with me through the ups and downs, whether I'm in an audition room or talking to a record label. For me, now my whole perception is like, okay, I'm not trying to get anything from anybody. I'm going to do the best version of myself as I possibly can. I'm leaving it on the table and I'm going to move on. And whatever happens from that happens. You're hearing all these no's and you're thinking, is what's wrong with me? And then when you pull out of it, you realize that's actually coming from a place of entitlement. It's like, why do I think that I deserve all of this? What, just because I showed up?
Mm.
No, man. No, there's a lot of people that have nothing that are going to work harder than you just to get that. So no, it's not just about showing up. It's about showing up again and again and again and again and never stopping and never letting that get you down. So for me, that's kind of been this huge lesson. And only up until the last couple of years have I gotten to this place mentally where it's just like, and it's totally freed me of just this the subtle art of not giving a fuck. And
Yes.
it's like, I'm going to work as hard as I know I possibly can and do the best that I possibly can. And then I'm not going to care what anybody has to say about it, because everyone's going to have their own opinion. Everybody's going to think one way or another about you, and that's fine. But like, the only way I know how to do things is to do them in the truest way possible to my foundation that I built for myself.
Right. Take me back to the years leading up to this enlightenment, this awakening that you've had for yourself, this confidence. You've been very honest and open on social media with rehab, with healing yourself, with realizing these dark parts of you. For me, I see a lot of parallels in my story to your story. Even just back to the parents. My mom was a singer. She gave it up to have a family. My dad
Yeah.
was a self-made man. They always believed in me, always told me I could do whatever I wanted. Yet there was always this piece, this I'm not enough. I need to push myself harder and work as hard as I possibly can to get what I want, achieve what I want. And eventually that pushing yourself over and over and over again, you got to find somewhere to release it, right? And as you get
Yeah.
older, you're Canadian, so you could drink at 18, right?
Yeah.
By the way, guys, me and Alexander went to college together, so
Yeah.
we were at some parties together.
Uh-huh.
And you start to get caught up in this world, and specifically for you, I can imagine, between the very, very high moments of booking the gigs and getting the jobs and seeking validation from your manager, your agent, your this, your that, all the people that are around you who are supposed to take care of you and help you kind of maneuver this crazy career. And from the highest of highs, I feel entertainers also experience the lowest of lows. And
Yeah.
it's really, really hard, especially when you're young, in your young 20s, to try and figure out, like, wait a minute, I don't understand how to navigate these super low lows. What is going on? So take me through the process of when you got to the moment that you were like, oh my gosh, I think I need help.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason I wanted to talk so openly about it is when I was trying to figure out if I was an addict or if I had this thing in me, I knew I had a problem with drugs and alcohol. Like, I always knew that that was an issue. Like when I was 14 years old and I had my first drink, I drank. It wasn't like I just had one. I went nuts. And that was kind of a consistent thing for me, was this binge. And this binge culture just got worse and worse and worse over time. And I was like, that can't be me though. Like, I can't be that person. So I started like researching online, and I love hearing from people that I look up to or like I admire in my line of work. And I just couldn't find that much. And I really wish I had that. So I felt that it was just my responsibility to myself that I was just open about it, because I'm so proud of the choice I made to get sober and to ask for help. And I think it's a courageous one that so many people feel shame around. But looking back, it's what's gotten me to where I am today. And had I not done that, I could be dead. And it's just amazing to me, like the endless gifts I've received as a result of me just getting right with myself. Like, it's wild to me. And now living in a place of service, like just trying to help others through this, and also just holding myself accountable. This is something that I'll have for the rest of my life. And the more I speak about it and the more I hear from, whether it's fans or friends who reach out, who want help, or anybody, like, that fuels me. And that also reminds me that what I'm doing is working, and it fills my soul. So to get back to your question, basically I really reached the point of realizing that this was an issue probably when I was in college, but I wasn't really in a place where I could deal with it yet. Like, I was in sophomore, the Hunger Games had come out, and it was a massive success, and there was just a lot of attention very quickly, and it's just not healthy for anybody, really. I wasn't equipped to deal with that kind of attention, and thank goodness for me that my next jobs following would take me out of the country where I could really explore my early adulthood in another area. So I left. So after that, I got Vikings and I went to Ireland, and it was incredible. The people there are amazing. But that's when things started to kind of pick up for me. The culture certainly there wasn't the best for somebody who's struggling with sobriety, but the truth is, I can blame it on all sorts of things and my whole life. But at the end of the day, it's me. We're all born with our own bag of shit to carry with us, and it's only up to us, nobody else, to make ourselves happy and to take that responsibility. And that's what I realized. This would have happened anywhere. I am just lucky it happened there, where I was kind of out of the spotlight and I was there with people who I could trust and who could kind of look after me as I tried to get my feet under me. And then shortly after, like, I went back to Vancouver after I was done shooting Vikings, and I I would do these like binges where I would just go missing. I would just be gone. I'd be gone. Like, it's not like I was partying with anybody or anything like that. Like, it started like that, and that's what I missed about it. I loved the camaraderie. I loved being at the party and being that. But then it got to a place where it was just me alone, and it was really sad and it was really destructive. And there was one incident where I went missing, and I came back from that and realized that this was a life or death kind of thing. And I just said to my girlfriend at the time, my family, I'm getting on a plane. I'm going straight to rehab. I need to figure this out. And rehab, the reason I talk about how great it was is because it wasn't like there's this blue pill that they give you and suddenly you're cured. It's intensive rehab, it's intensive therapy, and you're getting to the bottom of what it is that you are masking. Why are you trying to hurt yourself? Why are you trying to self-destruct? That's what I was doing. Whenever something really positive came into my life, I would destroy it because, like, of this stuff that I haven't dealt with. And it really came down to these feelings of unworthiness, of guilt, of shame for the successes I had or the places I'm not at. And like, that was a huge period of self-reflection for me. And I'm so freaking grateful. So I hope that, if somebody ever hears my story that needs to hear it, maybe this can be some sort of a beacon for them.
That's the whole reason I started this podcast, because I wanted to explore other people's journeys through their healing, and a little bit about my story, because we haven't caught up in a minute. So I started to lose my voice around 2017 because I was on the road. I was not taking care of myself. Some days I'd be playing a show for 9,000 people, opening for Kip Moore, and then the next day I'd be at a biker bar playing for the bar back. And it was the most highs of highs and lows of lows. And I just kind of was caught up in that. Well, if I do this and I show up to the radio appointment and I drink a lot with these radio people and I do the things, if I just do all of the things that people are telling me to do, then I'll be successful. Doing it everybody else's way, right? And I remember getting back in 2017 completely exhausted, losing my voice. All of my marbles were all over the place. I had no idea how to take care of myself at all. And I started feeling weird around people, and I was like, this is so bizarre. I don't understand why I'm feeling weird. And then I had a moment. I remember getting home, and I, of course, was drinking because that's the culture here in Nashville. Everybody goes out and drinks a lot. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm flailing as an artist. I'm not happy with my art. I'm not happy with who I am as a person. And I'm drunk and I'm numbing the pain. And I remember calling my dad the next day and I was like, I need to talk to someone. I need to go to therapy. And 2.5 years later, it's all about finding that baseline of joy, right? That baseline of peace amidst all of the super high highs and the low lows and all of the tools you learn to take care of yourself, which I assume you probably learned in rehab, of really peeling back the layers of, wait, why am I doing this self-destructive behavior? Why does this make me so angry? Why do I get so triggered when people say these certain things?
Yeah.
and I emotionally lash out. What happens in my brain? And I don't know if you have done some of this work, but I dove into doing a lot of work on my inner child and doing
Yeah. Yeah.
EMDR, which is
Yeah.
basically, oh, guys, EMDR, I'm such a fan of EMDR. You should go check it out. It's like the coolest thing. But it really takes hitting those super low moments of being like, whoa, what is happening in my life? But then taking the step, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm going to destroy myself if I don't get back and take charge of actually who I am, my happiness.
I couldn't agree more. By the way, also EMDR, I totally agree. It's amazing. And we had a bunch of guys from the military who were there for PTSD, and it really, really helped them as well. I also say this because it's really important for me to remind people, just anybody listening. I always say this to my friends too. Like, there's no judgment here. This is just my journey and like what I do for me. Like, I will still go out to a bar. I will still go party with people. Like, I love doing that. I love being social and seeing people. And I hope that they're drinking around me. I don't want anything to change. This is just what I need to do for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the real gold nugget in all of this is having the courage and the mindfulness to live in self-consultation. And if you can start looking within yourself and go, okay, I'm not happy with this. And if I continue down this road, nothing's going to change. So what do I need to change in my life so that this part of me changes? And that's kind of how I live with everything. There's still so much stuff I'm not anywhere close to having it figured it out. Like, yeah, there's so many things, but I'm curious and I want to, and I want to learn and I want to get better. And I also think that having that kind of vulnerability with people, being open, being you, because that's enough.
You are enough. That's a lot of what I had to work through in therapy of where did that even come from? Like, where did that creep into my child brain? And like you, on a very small scale, I started doing commercials in Texas. I got my first like $1,000 check when I was 7 years old. And it was all these kind of,
Amazing.
it's all these little tiny things though that you're like, wow, I'm really successful at this. But then when it starts to turn like, wait a minute, you're not. And then you're like, wait a minute, I don't understand. I'm not getting the validation that I used to. But then as you get older, I don't know if you could recognize this at a young age. I think maybe some people do, but for me, it took a while to realize like, wait a minute, I'm in charge of my happiness. Like, I can't seek it from other people, can't seek it from jobs. I can't seek it from my fans, even though I do sometimes and it's unhealthy. But like, you can't seek it from the outside world. It's all got to be healed and then from you.
And it's funny because this time is so interesting to me too. There's so much good that's happening in the world that I'm like so inspired by on a daily basis. Like, you know, just socially, the things that are changing, that are finally being talked about, that haven't been talked about before. I think that all those things are so important. But I also think it's important to remember empathy and empathy for others and empathy for ourselves, and understanding that our experience is not everyone's experience. I'm the worst at that. Like, I'm so bad at putting on my experience to anybody else. And it's like constantly having to remind myself, like, that person has lived a totally different life. Everybody carries their thing. They all got their mountains to climb. Everybody has a story worth telling. And then I would also like ask myself, Oprah, she always says that she got everything she had through gratitude. And I totally believe that, because if you look at why do you want to be successful financially? Why do you want to be a big artist, a big movie star, whatever it is that you want? What is the ultimate goal? Like, what are you trying to achieve? And I believe it's some sort of peace, and you can have that now. And if we can't have that now, we're never going to have it. That's the truth. Like, we have a roof over our heads and food in our mouths and people who love us. What else do we need? The fact that you get to do what you love for a living and I get to do what I love for a living, I mean, that is the greatest blessing of all. Don't get me wrong. I think it's really healthy to have goals and ambitions and always fight for those. But I also think it's just as important to step back and just take a look around and realize, man, we got it good.
Yeah, I'm reading this book right now called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and it's so, I'm only like maybe 20 pages in because it's so unbelievably dense, but it's the concept of regrets in the past, anxieties in the future. You need to work on being right here, right now. And it's the hardest thing to do. I can't believe how unbelievably hard it is. It's like, but that's what I try to wake up and I try to do. And with therapy and through all this stuff, it's really, really helped me to have the tools of like, wait a minute, stop stressing, stop doing this thing, be present, be in the moment. How do you get yourself back in that, like, oh, stop right here?
Well, this guy I look up to just immensely. His name's Sino. He's incredible. He's also in recovery and just kind of been just like my guide through everything. But he always talks about this, like for him, the greatest spiritual experience is the pause. And it's this ability that, like, when you're in a fight or your emotions seem to be taking over or any of that, this ability to just stand back and just pause for a moment. It's just a moment and just look within and go, wow, okay, this is what's happening. And that kind of emotional restraint, or whatever you want to call it, or just ability to look within ourselves, comes with practice.
Mm.
So for me, I'm trying every day still to establish the best routine that works for me. I think meditation for me is really important, but also I pray every night. That's something I've done since I was a kid. And staying active physically, like going to the gym for me is a huge one. I do it for my emotional sanity, if anything, my mental sanity, and writing music, and
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, like, I love my work. Like, I love writing scripts. I love writing songs. I love doing all that stuff. So for me, that's how I keep sane on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate your vulnerability, and I think a lot of people are going to benefit from hearing your story. And for anybody listening, we are two very individual people. We've had our individual journeys, and individual things have worked for us. But I would encourage you, if you're feeling like you're in a low moment or in a moment where you're at a crossroads, I encourage you to go to therapy. I encourage you to talk to someone. I encourage you to put that empathy forward, put that vulnerability forward, and you deserve to love yourself. And it's hard work. Being yourself is hard work, but it's so worth the journey. But I want to jump over to your music. You are a full-fledged songwriter, country artist. You guys, you need to go listen to his new song, Let Me Be Your Whiskey, because it's wonderful. And I was on my tour in the UK, and we were driving to Manchester for my show that night, and I was on this Spotify playlist, and I saw that your song was live, and it was right next to mine, and I was like, wait a minute.
I know.
This is like 10 years in the making, or I don't know if it's 10, yeah, maybe 10 years in the making. I'm like, we went to college together. Oh, by the way, guys, we were also in songwriting class together. Do you remember those moments, Alexander?
Liv, our teacher in songwriting was incredible, and that class is what kept me from getting kicked out of college, because it got my GPA up high enough because I got an A in songwriting that I didn't get kicked out. It's the first time I know. It's the first time I've ever said that, actually, but that's the truth. Yeah, that class kept me in college. It's wild.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me about this love for country music. Where did it start?
I've just always listened to country music for as long as I can remember. I think specifically, though, in my teen years, it just spoke to so much of what I loved just as a human being. It talks about the fact that the dream is now. In this moment, right here. You don't need any more. What we got, that's the dream. Those kind of songs just filled my soul, just all of them, and just reminded me to keep searching for those places and those feelings. And there's some really amazing writers, in Nashville. I just love the art of making a country song. Like it just reminds me of like one of those great forms of storytelling. And it fills my soul. It's really hard to put an exact reason why that's the music I love, but it just speaks to me.
I explain to my friends writing a country song versus writing a pop song or writing an R&B or something different. Country kind of has its box. It has its simple chords, straight to the point, very, very relatable words, but you have to say so, like in so little.
Dude, it's like a great movie too. Like it's that all of these stories have been told before since the beginning of time. I mean, right. Since we were sitting around a fire telling stories, we all know these stories. It's about finding a new and interesting way to tell the same story we've heard since the beginning of human beings. We've had these same emotions. That's where it becomes really interesting and fun to me, is like just, it's unbelievable to me, and it still shocks me how much time is put into like literally a word. One word can make all the difference to making somebody feel something. Somebody that's listening on the radio, going to work, and they hear that word, or they hear that hook, and suddenly they feel something,
Yeah.
and it just yeah, it's remarkable to me. And music has always had such an important place in my heart. Obviously, it has with you as well, and I think that's probably why we've stayed friends for so long too. Is that we share that commonality, and yeah, I'm so excited for this journey. And like it was one of those things that just happened really out of the blue. I knew that I didn't want to look back on my life and regret not going for it, and I got on a plane when I had the time and started going to Nashville, making trips, trying to meet people. And then on a plane, sitting right in front of me is the guy who's now one of my best friends and my producer. It's like just weird things like
That's
that.
how it happens, man. That's Nashville. I
Yeah.
mean, that's life,
Yeah.
really. But
Yeah.
especially in Nashville, it's such a small town, and you just never know who you're going to be sitting next to, or walking into a coffee shop, or running into at a bar. There still really is that magic. I mean, obviously pre-COVID,
Yeah.
but well, I'm just so happy for you, Alexander, and watching your career
Absolutely.
continually blossom and coming to Nashville and pursuing that dream. Like, you just have all the dreams on your list. It's so inspiring. It's amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not gonna be a physicist anytime soon.
Okay, we'll keep it to like entertainment industry dreams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to end on a super quick, fun lightning round where people can get to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to say the first part of the sentence, and you're going to complete it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I've seen every episode of
Friends.
My favorite meal ever is
Sergio's pasta.
what?
Yeah.
What is
It's
that?
an Italian. It's basically the first restaurant when I was a kid I ever went to. Was called Salute in Vancouver, and behind there's a chef that was working there. His name was Sergio, and I was like 11 months or 12 months old or whatever when I went to the restaurant, right? And then over time, my whole life, I kept going back to that restaurant, and Sergio used to come over to our house and cook for my birthday. So he's become like one of my friends, and so that meal to me just means so much too. It's also amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that story.
Yeah.
My secret acting tip for any aspiring actor is
Don't give a fuck about what anybody thinks.
good one. My favorite song ever is
My favorite written song, When You Say Nothing at All. Genius, huh? Yeah.
oh, so good. The songs we aim to write. Something I would tell my 21-year-old self is
Embrace the mistakes. It's what's going to give you the experience.
And last one, someone wise once told me.
Two things. One was the three things that matter to just being a person is integrity, credibility, and honor. That's my father. And the second one that I love is freedom. True freedom is obedience to self-formulated rules. And that's Aristotle. Yeah.
Well, Alexander, I'm so happy you gave us some of your time to talk about your story on the Living Inside podcast today. I know that it's going to help so many people, and I just can't wait to see this project you're working on and just how amazing many things you do in the near future in music. Hopefully one day we'll be hosting the ACMs together. Let's just
I would love that.
let's just put it out there.
Yeah. It's so good to see you, and keep in touch. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm just enamored by everything you're doing all the time from afar. I hope I get to see you soon.
Absolutely.